Friends in Christ, on this third Sunday of ordinary time, the church calls me and you to draw closer to Christ, the real light himself. And why should we come closer to him? First is that in order that the reality of our life might become fully manifested. We can truly become who Christ wants us to be, who God created us to be, when we come closer to that light. And Christ is the real light, the true light, the one who can lead us, the one who can quench all the darknesses around us. And secondly, the church also invites us this Sunday to come closer to this light so that the shadow that dominates our lives might diminish. And of course, we know there are so many shadows that dominate our lives, or darkness, and this could be disappointment, anxiety, depression, injustice, discrimination, and so on. And these darknesses or shadows can truly be eradicated by Christ, the real light himself. It's not something that we have to carry by ourselves, especially the darkness of our own sins. So therefore, the church exalts us today not to be content with physical lights. Rather, we should seek and walk in the light of God. The good news, this is the light which draws us to Christ. As we have in science, in the study of formation of shadows in optical physics, it is known that as an object draws closer to light, its shadow diminishes and it's become real. And whereas the farther away it moves from light, the longer its shadows becomes. And this is exactly what is also happening to our own spiritual life, our own joining, our own relationship with God. And could we say perhaps why all these shadows comes our way happen to us is because we are so far away from the light? Could it be true? And so that's why the church calls us to come closer, and science has proven it, to come closer to Christ, because when we come closer to him, the light, its rays would overshadow our own darkness and lead us to where we're supposed to go and who we're supposed to be. And so that's why in the first reading of today, dear friends in Christ, Isaiah raised our hope. This hope comes from the fact that God has manifested his light on us. It is a message of deliverance from the power of darkness that formerly harassed us. Isaiah declares, the people that walked in darkness are seeing a great light. On those who live in the land of deep shadow, a light has shone. The light which is God himself, is capable of achieving so many impossible changes in our lives. So we don't have to stay aloof from that light. And I don't know what changes you want in your own life. I don't know the shadows that you're going through. I don't know what is dark in your own life. And once again this Sunday, we are reminded, if truly we come closer to this light, Christ himself, God can change that. The light himself can change that. And so God is light. However, we have to present ourselves before it. We cannot look for this change. We cannot be praying for this, or we cannot want to change things in our own life to brighten up at the darkness that surrounds us from afar. And we have to come present ourselves before him as we do here. Not just only here, not only the physical light, not only the physical presence, but also spiritually. Always, wherever we find ourselves, in our homes, to draw ourselves spiritually every time closer to that light. And so the light of Christ, what does it do? It shows us the way. It breaks our yoke, and it declares our doubt, it clears our doubt and fears, and increases our confidence in God and in ourselves too. This is what happens when we come closer to that light. And so Paul in our second reading today tells us what happened when people live in darkness, when people do not experience the true light of God. And that's why Paul in the second reading today expressed his disappointment over the Corinthian community. He rebuked them for their bad behavior. This is because they still live in the shadow of darkness and ignorance. For Paul, the quarrel and division among them is not a good sign that they live in the light of Christ. Hence, he denounced their way of life. So Paul draws attention to the very essence of the good news. And what is it? That is casting off the shadow of darkness and ignorance. Most times, difference in Christ, just like the community of Corinthians, we quarrel over trivial stuff. Even in the church of God, as we sit here, this is my seat. I have always seated here. This is my space. Imagine this is exactly what happened in the community of Corinthians. They were quarreling over this one is I'm for Paul, I'm for Apollos, I'm for Cephas, I'm for Christ. And Paul reminds them once again that it wasn't Paul that died for them. They were not baptized in the name of Paul. And the same thing is also applicable to us, dear friends in Christ, that we come into the church, if we truly want to encounter the light of Christ, that we have to let go every other side distraction and fix our eyes on God. Sometimes we think of say something like, oh, this priest, oh, the former priest was better, the former bishop was better, or maybe the old one was good, or maybe this one is better. We talk about this thing and take side. And this is exactly what happened also in the community Paul talks about today. And why is it happening? It's the simple fact, because we are not truly encountered the true light, Jesus himself. Because when that light shines upon you, you fix your eyes on God. We know you come into the church, you come to meet Christ, not anybody, not a priest, not the choir, not the ushers, not anybody beside you, but you come to meet Christ, you fix your eyes on Christ and allow that light to penetrate in you and for you to absorb that light. So in the gospel reading of today, dear friends in Christ, the prophecy Isaiah was fulfilled through the action of Christ. And this calls us to action too. If we call ourselves Christian, we have a responsibility to perform, to absorb that light and go out there and to shine that light to other people too. Listen to what Jesus did in our gospel reading of today. As the true light, he says his presence make a great difference in the life of the people of Capernaum, as well as those neighboring towns of Zebulun and Naphtali. His light was strongly felt because it brought healing and deliverance. He proved to be their balm of Gilead. And this is where we have to ask ourselves a question. If I'm truly a Catholic, truly a Christian, and I've truly encountered the light of God, the light of Jesus, how do I shine that light out when I'm out there? When I'm not in this space? When I'm out there in my place of work? The people I meet, the kind of words that come up from my own lips, the way I react to situation, how I love people, how I share my thing with one another, causes us to question, how do we shine our light? The presence of Jesus in the community of Capernaum today, as we've heard, actually changes things. It changes the life of people. People were healed. Aside that, you have to also, the church also reminds us today that you have that power too to heal. And as we go out, when we leave this place, your neighbor, your friends, or your colleague in the office tell you, perhaps I'm sick, and there's so many things happening in my family. How do you shine your light out? Friends in Christ, do not doubt, do not underestimate the power God has given you. That you can put a hand and pray, and something can happen. And your presence also should bring not only healing, physical healing, that you pray something happen, it should bring joy, happiness. When people see you, do they run away? When they see you, they feel welcoming. They want you to be around them. This is the sign that we truly encounter the light. When we encounter that light, we are ready to shine by true act of kindness, charity, compassion, forgiveness. And so we ask ourselves today, this third Sunday in ordinary time, how do I shine my light? How can I shine that light? And we also pray God to give us the grace to shine that light wherever we find ourselves. So today, friends, the church beckons us to come closer to Christ, who says, I am the light of the world. Anyone who follows me will not walk in darkness. Wherever there is the light of God, darkness and quarrels disappear. Also, wherever there is the light of God, fear, anger, greed, betrayal, lying, cheating, lust, and all other vices disappear. And wherever there is the light of God, there is no discrimination, no racism, no injustice. All those things disappears. So wherever the light of God or the good news shines, the people who live in darkness see a great light. Therefore, friends, if we follow and come closer to Christ, the light, then in his light we shall see light. Peace be with you all.